inspiration can come from everywhere, and ultimately, when you do your own thing, you probably want to pull from a bunch of different sources.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Inside Hilton's Head. And I think we're inside my head, which is right now on the road, not in my sunroom today. I'm actually in New York. So this is kind of like
a sunroom, don't you?
I do have a sunroom, a beautiful
That's
sunroom.
the room with the plants and the light and the
of
glass.
Course, you can't have a sunroom without plants.
Yeah.
That voice that you're hearing is, or seeing, because you can see him. If you're watching, you can see who it is. But if you're just listening to this, like most people just listen to podcasts, that is the voice of Maxwell Ryan, the CEO and founder of Apartment Therapy, one of the most popular and successful interior design websites out there. If you don't know, I don't know what type of rock you've been under, but definitely one of the greatest things ever to be created. He also has The Kitchen, Cubby and Dorm Therapy, and the author of many books, Apartment Therapy's Big Book of Small, Cool Spaces, Apartment Therapy Complete and Happy Home, and Apartment Therapy, The 8-Step Home Cure, which I'm sure we could all still use. All of that great information. Maxwell, I'm so thankful to have you on the podcast today, sir. Thank you so much.
Glad to be here.
Well, this is not my first time in your offices. I've been here many times before.
It was a while ago, though.
It has been a while. I haven't been here since the pandemic.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time here, 2019, 2018. I was your plant doctor. They call me the plant doctor here.
Was that did that name come out of working together, or did you bring that?
I did not bring that to the table. For one, my wife is an actual doctor. She's a dentist, and she did not like that I was trying to claim myself also as a doctor in the family. But your team said, hey, let's figure out a way to brand it, which you guys have a great way of doing that. And they coined me the plant doctor, and we made a lot of wonderful content. And the reason why, everyone, that I wanted to be here across from you today is to first thank you. I want to thank you, Maxwell, because you created a space for creatives like myself, designers, writers, visual media individuals to have a space to share their passion. And for me, when someone from your team reached out for the first time and they said, hey, we would like to partner with you somehow, do some video content. I think maybe it was just like I believe it was like share your 5 favorite things to do in the morning. I remember this video. And I was like, what? Because I was such a huge fan of Apartment Therapy.
Got it.
Apartment Therapy was one of the first blogs I had ever gone to find a little bit of inspiration when it came to styling my own space. So when I first made my way to the site, saw what was there, got inspired, put a little bit of that into my own home, and then to later have this experience to be on the site was mind-blowing. So I want to thank you for creating this space.
Well, that's the reason we created it. So
well, that's great. Well, I need to know more. Right. But I did mention a lot of things that you have going on. You have this empire of things happening with so many people involved. The one thing that is always on my mind, especially right now, is sleep. I'm trying to get good sleep. I have a lot to do, and I feel like there's never enough time in the day.
You have a child too.
I have a child too. I do. But my wife says that I often wake up and I'm just like, fuck, because I've been this way for a while.
Yeah.
I always feel like when I wake up, I'm already late. I'm already behind. Well, there's so much to do. How are you sleeping? How much sleep do you get?
I sleep very well. Look, when you start something yourself, you're always going to be anxious.
Of course.
You're always going to feel like there's something you should be doing.
Yeah.
And if you leave the room thinking, gosh, I could have done that better, that's perfect.
Yeah.
If you came out of the room thinking, God, that that was perfect. I don't know how I could have done it better. You're probably wrong.
Of course.
So the anxiety doesn't go away. But what will say is what's been really interesting. It's been it's been more than 20 years, but there came a certain point when I had a team. And when you go from an individual to a team, what you find is you're part of a team.
Yeah.
But you're working shoulder to shoulder and you're doing everything like you're all alone.
For sure.
And it takes a while to learn to delegate and not be doing everything by yourself with your team. And the more you can do that, the more you can transition to someone who is directing the team and not digging ditches.
Of course.
And if you're a founder type person, it's hard to do because you like the details. You feel like if you don't dig the ditches, who will? But you have to. Once you have a team, what I found, and this has only happened in the last 5 years, your goal is to do less. And the reason for that is you need to think more.
Yeah.
If you are doing a lot, you are not going to be thinking. You're just going to be doing a lot.
Agreed.
And so what I found over the last 5 years is there's a fear of like, oh my God, what if my schedule's empty today? And look, they're all working out there. Yeah. Well, there's another job that you have to do, and that's to sit there and read or research or think or just get out of digging all the ditches. And if you do that, what you bring back to the team, I think, is leadership.
Oh, for sure.
And vision and new ideas. You can't do it otherwise.
No, not at all. Do you meditate?
I do, not regularly.
Or is that your type of meditation? Just reading, maybe writing?
No, I do meditate when times are tough.
Okay.
But I sleep. I like to get to. My thing is at the end of the day, I like to cook. Cooking is a great release.
Okay.
I like to read, and I like to have a hot bath.
Okay.
And then I like to get in bed, and I like to read until I go to sleep.
You're all self-care. I like your style, Maxwell.
But literally, the hot bath or a hot shower is my body needs. And then, to be honest, like either a big glass of milk with CBD or melatonin or something else just to take the edge off.
I love it.
And then I wake up in the morning feeling great.
Another individual who likes to drink a big glass of milk. Rarely meet those. You know what I mean? My wife will go, "What's going on here?" So I mean, look, that's what you're talking about is a goal of mine. This is this something that is new for you that you finally got to this? Because you mentioned 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, I was reading a biography of Warren Buffett, and I was impressed that there was a description of him sitting in his office in Omaha, and he reads all day. He reads like half the day.
Oh wow! Okay.
And there was another note, like when someone calls him, he picks up the phone. He is not busy. And I was like, wow. And he's running. I think right now, as of last week, it's like the 4th or 5th largest company in the United States.
Yeah.
So you would think this person would have very little time,
for sure.
or that he'd be anxious, or that he'd be stressed out, or yelling at people, and that's not it at all. And I think the way you get to running a bigger business, a successful business, is you have to step back, you have to empower the people you're with, which means you cannot micromanage them, you have to trust them, and then you have to do the one thing they can't do, which is say, after all that's done, this is where we're going. This is the new mountain to climb. This is the vision.
You're driving the ship, or
you're steering
the ship.
They're rowing.
They're rowing. Got it.
Steering, and you do not want to row. If you're rowing, you're making a mistake.
Got it.
I tell my executive team, there's 3 below me, and I like if they're in meetings all day long, something's wrong. They've got to get out of meetings. They have to delegate.
For sure.
So, and it's important because otherwise you're not going to have thoughts.
Not at all. But that's not a thing you can. 2001, you start the blog. Apartment Therapy starts in 2001?
No, so Apartment Therapy started, I was a school teacher for 7 years, and then I was like, when you're a school teacher, you're like, I'm going to be a school teacher forever.
Okay. Was that your mindset, or you're just saying that's how
I was
you
working
thought of
with
it?
people who were school teachers and school teachers forever, and
sure.
I thought to myself, I really enjoyed it.
What did you like teaching?
I taught everything. I was a Waldorf teacher, so I taught class. I taught English. I taught history. I taught painting. I taught math.
You were a young teacher then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like right out of college.
A couple of years. I went to grad school, and then I started teaching, and it was sort of like figuring out my place.
Got it.
The deal with the Waldorf schools is that you teach the same kids for up to 5 to 8 years. So I traveled with my students, and every year you visit them at home, and you have dinner, and you see where they live and where they work, and you see their room. And the reason for that is children learn the best from someone they have a personal connection with.
For sure.
And so you have a very strong connection.
I love that.
The other thing that came out of it was in visiting homes, I started to see that the kids who came from the best homes did the best in class.
Can I ask a question really quick? What makes the best home?
So it's not what you think.
Okay.
It's not rich, poor.
Okay.
It's when I say best, it's more like cared for. It's the families that got home, were able to sit down for dinner with their kids.
Yeah.
The home was clean and cared for. I had some wealthy parents who had TVs going, and everything felt a little like spinning plates.
Of course.
Not so good.
Yeah.
So it wasn't sort of a wealth thing. It was much more of an intelligence, emotional intelligence, and a commitment. And also, obviously, it's also helpful when the family is liking one another and working on their relationship. So I thought, wow, that's fascinating. If the home is so important to these small children coming into my classroom, then my home must be important to me coming into the classroom too. In other words, how can I do my job if I'm coming from an uncared for, disorganized home or a place that I'm not comfortable or proud of?
Yeah.
And I started to think, gosh, wouldn't that be interesting if you were to start a design, help people with their homes, not the way they looked all the time, the decoration, but the health of them and the organization of them, the sort of, I say beauty, health, and organization, sort of the threefold.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then the home becomes not just a place that you want to photograph, but a place that you're proud of, that makes you feel good, that gives you power when you go into the world, supports you in your job or your partnership. It's a place to recharge at the end of the day.
Sure.
Everyone always used to say to me, they're big, because I'd interview people, what do you want out of your home? They say, I would love to be able to invite people over for dinner. And I said, well, why don't you? So I can't. It's not my home. It's not ready.
Yeah. People do and you'll continue to say that over and over again because the home is always, for me, it's always a work in progress. Yeah, but at a certain point, obviously, like you're saying, like you have to make it feel right for yourself. Yeah.
Your home's your second skin. So if you want to be comfortable in it, you want to be proud of it, and you want to work for you, work for who you're living with, and then the best thing in the world is to invite friends in and share it.
It's the best. Yeah. That's funny because that's literally my somewhat of my story of how I found myself back to interior design, interior styling. So in college, I did have this conversation with Max before we started talking here, is that when I was in undergrad studying painting, I did want to have this, I did a minor before college in interior design because I was always passionate about my space. So I'm an only child. I had my own room my entire life.
Were you the type who constantly was redoing it and
I was always trying to make my room awesome. What I thought was awesome, moving things around, trying to get as much space as possible. There was a moment when I shoved my bed into the closet so that I had more floor space in the room. And so it became this thing to me that I felt like you're saying, like the space must feel right for those who maneuver through it, who dwell in it. And I wanted to have, like, whenever someone would come over to my home, that they felt relaxed and comfortable in that space. But in my room, I guess at that moment in time. But I had went to graduate school for film, and I was studying more so to be a director. But in grad school, and I'm sure this is in most schools probably, when you're working in film, it's unlike painting or drawing where you can just go and do the thing yourself. film takes so many artists together to make that one thing. So my freshman year, they make you bounce around from every single job that there is in the film industry.
In a crew, like you
exactly,
said.
as a crew. So I went through them all: editing, gaffing, and production design. And I fell in love with production design. And I fell in love with this idea that I was making a space for a character to live in, but every single detail had to tell a bit about that character so that you would know who they were or what they were about without them in the room. And I love that idea, like sitting down a particular book and going, this is what that individual is about. Or maybe you can tell it's a new book based off of what it is. So you're gonna place a fresh book there, or if it's been read, maybe it's been read a few times. So let's rip it, let's fold it up. Let's really make it feel like if we go to a little vignette of this little area of the room, the audience will go, that's a person that's really dug into that book. And that means a lot to them. And I started to think about all this time and energy I was putting into these characters. And I was like, I need to put that energy into my own home. I need to think about what people would see about my space. If you pulled me out of the space, what are the little pieces what would you think of me? Like, what does it say about me? And that was the first time that
What did you see then? What did you think it said?
It was someone who really didn't care about their space because they didn't have anything that represented me. They didn't say anything about me. It was just a piece of furniture from this place, a pillow from that place. It wasn't anything that was detailed, like really stood out as a Hilton Carter thing.
Were you also, as many people are, like not taking care of yourself? Like,
Maxwell,
I don't want to spend time on my home because Maxwell, I don't want to put too much time into me. I want to go take care of other people.
Well, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm on my sleep journey right now, Max. So I'm trying to find a way to sleep better. I just think, honestly, during that time, I was just a big ball of stress, Max. I was in graduate school at that point, and then once I graduated, I was living in LA, and I felt like I said, I would wake up, and I would just go, I'm late. Someone else is out there taking my job. They're taking my spot.
Yeah.
And I need to get on it. I need to do this thing. So I never felt like you were talking about where you can be now, where you can sit and read a book and you know that you put all of your players in place to row. Right, they're all of the crew is on the boat and they're rowing,
and you have to be looking at the map.
You're looking at the map. I had no crew. At that point in time, you have no crew.
And in the beginning, you don't. You have to do both.
Exactly. So that's where I was at that time, and I wanted that feeling of home. So when I started to think about these pieces that were going to make up my space and who I was, that's when I would turn to apartment therapy.
Got it.
And I would go, what are other people considering their idea of home? What matters to them and what really matters to me? And then I started to understand what was important for the character that is Hilton Carter. These are the things that are very important to me. I want to hold on to this piece forever. And I want this piece to make it from this home where I am now to maybe my next home. Instead of like, all this stuff is here for now, and then when I move, I can probably shove it. So that's why I feel like, to me, at this point in my life, finding or having a space like you've set up and created has encouraged and inspired so many to find that place of home. But in that early stage when that light bulb moment hit for you, you had no crew. Right. You had to do it all.
Well, yes, but it can also be really easy in the beginning because it's simple. And there's less pressure.
I was going to say that, yep.
And you don't have payroll.
Yeah.
or any expectation.
For sure.
So, but let me step back. The design service was all about helping people make their homes beautiful, organized, healthy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about me setting a style for them. It was about using what they've got and editing them so that when they came home, their home felt great.
This was the beginning of apartment therapy.
That was the service. Then the service I ran for another 7 years, but during the middle of it, my brother, he went to business school. He was working in digital media in California, and he came back and he's like, you should, check out these things, blogs. They'd be good for you. And I said, what's a blog? And he said, well, it's this thing you just write to the web. And
what year is this?
2004.
2004. Okay.
And it's really important what he said back then, because we still do it, and that's why we met. He said the thing about blogs is you're not publishing like it's all about me. Mm-hmm. You're creating, you're hosting, and you're putting stuff out, and then you're receiving stuff back through your comments at the time, email. And the idea is if you can host this community, you can grow it.
Of course.
And so the key to it is to be the host, not the boss. And that's what blogs were in the very beginning. In fact, in the very beginning, often they were just pages of links, and someone would curate links from all these great sites and put them out there. And that was really valuable. So I started to showcase my clients' homes, took photographs and stuff like that. But then I also started to get suggestions from comments and would do that. And the idea was to slowly pull people in.
For sure.
And grow community around this, because ultimately people connect to people, and the solutions that I can bring are maybe 5. The solutions a community can bring are 100.
But where did that expertise, where did that knowledge of how to walk into a space and understand what was going to bring an individual, a client, that sense of home, like where did that come from?
So that's sort of really sort of what I think about. I mean, sort of a natural talent. I grew up with a mom who's an artist and a dad who's a psychiatrist. Not that he was good with his surroundings, but my mom was. And then being a teacher. When you're a teacher in a Waldorf school, I got a different layer to it. For example, we're sitting in this room and the sun is coming through the windows on our right side.
Yep.
We are taught as teachers that how the children sit in relation to the sun is important and will help them do their work. So we organize the desks in relation to the sun or wherever the windows are. We give them certain types of pencils based on their age that are correct for their growth, for their bodies. We, as a Waldorf teacher, you can really go down the rabbit hole, but we have opinions on food and all of this is geared towards being healthy.
Got it.
And so it gave me sort of almost like a medical science sort of training that the things that I maybe felt or sort of felt intuitively before actually had some backing. And so when I walk into a room, I look at what is the flow through the room. What could the movement be through the room? That's another Waldorf thing.
But you're saying you're having that thought now. You're saying, but that was back then as well when you first left.
Yeah,
I guess teaching, you were still thinking in that mindset of how does one move throughout a room?
Yeah, that was the whole approach of apartment therapy, was to teach people that a room has an impact on you, and it's not just a matter of choosing paint colors and put cushions. Yeah. So I learned about the difference between warm colors and cool colors, stimulating colors and calming colors. Yeah. I learned the difference between textures. But I wasn't learning it from an interior design perspective.
Which is so crazy to me, because what you're literally talking about is everything I learned in college, in my painting classes or my color theory classes. This was being taught to you as a teacher.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, because we had to teach those things, but we had to be aware of them too.
Of course.
There were certain things you did not want to do because they would not help the children. So you have to be aware of the entire environment.
Of course.
So that's where apartment therapy started in terms of helping people. But the blog thing was really like, let's get other people involved. Let's grow this as a community. Yeah. And so I hired a fellow in LA, a woman in Chicago, another woman in San Francisco, and we'd get on every morning and they would write about things that the whole idea was, sorry, let me step back. Magazines at the time, I love interiors and all that sort of stuff, but I wasn't really big into magazines.
Okay.
I wasn't big into HGTV, renovations or makeovers or stuff like that. I mean, I get that, but that wasn't.
Course.
So there was a sort of a little bit of a big white space here.
Okay.
And I thought, the other thing that was really clear is that a lot of the shelter magazines were designed for married women who were going to stay home and tend house. And a lot of people in New York I knew, men, women, gay, straight, were like, that's not me.
It's not us.
That's not me.
Sure.
So I felt like, why don't we just be us and create a space where we can share our inspiration, and we want to be able to inspire, which means you have to see something you'd like to do or copy. Then we teach you. So we say, all right, how did he do it? How did she do it?
Yeah.
We can give you a tour of Hilton's house. We can see the things where he got things.
Yep.
And we could even do a DIY with him, or how did he fix that bureau and then change the knobs?
Yep.
And then there's another piece, which is connecting you to the resources you need to do it yourself. Then we found the fourth part of this flywheel was when you did those three things and people did a great job and they were really proud of it, they wanted to submit it and share it back in. And that makes the flywheel spin.
For sure.
Again. So the idea with the blog was very quickly, let's do this. Let's do what magazines can't do, because magazines are a one-way signal.
Yeah.
We were trying to be a two-way, always-on signal.
Got it.
And that's, I think, what was different in the sense that it wasn't fancy.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we didn't have any advertisers for a long time because, we finally landed advertisers who were really Walmart and West Elm and Target. So they're affordable.
Yeah.
But back then, they were not seen as sort of interior design advertisers.
Of course.
So we tried. So that's what it was from the beginning. People have problems in their home. They want to feel good. They need a resource. We try to be that resource, but we try to come at it from all angles and bring them around our flywheel. And if we solve their problems, we are in business every day. We're not entertainment.
Yeah.
We're a service company.
I love that you keep saying service. So I was like, I guess that's what we're in, is a service company today. I love that. And obviously I'm one of the individuals who was on the blog.
Well, you brought your service and shared it to others as well, particularly around plants in this case.
Yes, of course.
And that was something I didn't know. You brought an expertise that not only you're really good at, but you also hit it right when everybody was deeply interested in.
You're right. It's just the right time. But again, it's one of those things where I found I had no idea, and I do want to ask you this as well. I had no idea that this sort of, which I think it is, and what you created is a service, but you created a community on this service. Right. And I didn't know that there was a community out there in the design space like that. Like I was on filmmakers' blogs and things of that nature, but once I thought of how to style my home, I didn't even think that that's where I would head. And a friend of mine was like, have you checked out apartment therapy?
Right.
And this is when I was living in New Orleans. And I was like, no, I haven't. Maybe I should. And going through it, I was just like, these are all individuals trying to make their home feel exactly like I'm trying to make my home feel. They want to bring that personal touch to their space, but then be inspired by others. But when you were starting this whole thing and you were thinking about how all of that flywheel, as you said, would grab those who were going to the blog, what were, like, to you, like, what was the end goal? Like what was happening down the road in the future?
Balancing work and life can be really stressful, and finding ways to work through the stress is always a goal of mine. Of course, the process of nurturing plants helps me to slow down, take a breath, and bring in joy. But unfortunately, my plants aren't licensed therapists with expert advice. Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or you're just a human who lives in this world who is going through a hard time, therapy can give you the tools to approach your life in a very different way. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in my description. It's betterhelp.com/Hilton. Clicking this link helps to support this channel, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing with therapy, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. Starting this podcast was supposed to be a little extra therapy for me, getting the ideas in my head out. Good to know I can always use BetterHelp just in case Molly can't help me. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/Hilton. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel.
I was not, my skill, I did fine.
Yeah.
And it paid the bills for a long time. But I could see the limitations of my skill set, particularly the logistics of building a business that has to move around a city.
For sure.
And I realized I wasn't interested in that challenge. I was more interested, the teacher in me kept kicking. And what a blog is, or media is, even what we're doing now, is more teaching and learning.
For sure.
So, and the bigger the classroom, the more interesting it can get.
I love this. So when did the transition happen where you were like, I'm going to fully focus on
the site?
blog?
Well, you start off blogging in 2004, and it's like, it's not even a side project; it's a side project.
Was it like a no man's land there? Like
it was for design.
For
and
sure.
home.
Sure.
There were a lot of was popular politics. Was really big. In fact, I think it played a role in the Obama years at the time. Gossip was big. Gadgets were really big.
Okay.
But I was doing sofas and chairs and rugs and wall color. And I was sharing offices with the guys from Gawker.
Okay.
And they were like, "What are you doing down there?" Because they're all like punching away at our computers. Like, "I'm writing about sofas." And they just laughed. They just laughed.
No.
and it was just, we had no idea that it would grow or be a business. But I didn't realize, probably which is good. And my friend who started Gawker said to me a couple of years later, he's like, I didn't realize it's a great advertising category. Like, oh yeah, I guess, that is important.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're going to spend a lot of time, if you want your media to be paid for, you got to have advertisers.
For sure.
So it just started slowly and it
rolled.
But
what was, because I guess I was asking this question, what was the goal, right? Like you're starting it off, you're now
goal was
shifting.
To have fun.
So you weren't thinking about how you were going to, I guess, expand the brand, the business. You were just we're having a good time.
You were just, we were having a good time. I was working with people in different cities. We were all writing about our city. Greg would write about L.A. Janelle would write about Chicago. I'd write about New York. We had a thing where we did, in the summer, we celebrated people's flower boxes outside their apartments or their homes.
Awesome.
We would go around and stick little prizes in them and photograph them and put them on the blog.
Okay.
Give them prizes and, just inspire people to take care of their flower boxes. So it was very cheap and easy.
Yeah.
It was, did I have a kid yet? Yeah, probably. Small.
Oh.
And
that's not easy.
But I was doing both. I was doing the service to make money, and then the blogging would be like in the morning. And then it grew. There was really no advertising. We learned how to turn on Google Ads. That started to be a little bit. We thought maybe this will be like, I don't know, a good little side project that will grow. And then the readers started to grow. And the more people show up when you're writing, particularly in those days, because you were so one-to-one tied in with comments.
Yeah.
And you could feel the volume because you'd see them come in and you were like basically talking.
Yeah.
You go back and forth between writing and talking in the comments. When that grows, it's addictive.
And you were the one there seeing the comments, writing back.
Yeah, I was doing it from New York. Greg was doing it from LA. Janelle was doing it from Chicago. Leslie was doing it from San Francisco. So you were like, you have these cities and you're humming, and we were like going to add Boston and DC, or everything's a little different.
Yeah.
But it's just addictive. Like you couldn't, I found myself not wanting to leave my keyboard, but I had to go to work with clients.
For sure.
And then eventually someone came along and said, we would like to buy out all the advertising placement on your site.
Ooh.
I was like, whoa, that's
yeah.
In other words, they'll sell the ads. We just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And they said, that's going to be like, what was it back then? It was like, I don't know, like $30,000 a month.
You were like, now we got a business.
Yeah. Now I can pay them. Or like we were all freelance.
Oh,
so we
wow.
were all doing other jobs.
Yeah.
Janelle was a mom, Gregory was doing something else. So then we could all go full time. So then we went 4 or 5 of us went full time. We had a 1-year ad contract, and we went from ad contract with one company to another to building a business, and slowly but surely.
Did you all end up making your way to the same city? Did they all end up coming here, or?
No. Well, Faith is still in Columbus. She's still with me.
Okay.
Gregory, I saw him on LinkedIn today. He works for Wirecutter.
Okay.
And he does a bunch of other stuff. But I had to fold the local coverage years ago because it turned out the business was going national.
Got it.
And when you're writing for a bigger and bigger audience, you need people to be interested in what you're writing.
For sure.
And if it's really cool, but it's LA, the rest of the country doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it was a bummer because I think the day may be coming where we get back to that a little bit more.
Okay.
Because I think there's more interest in these niches, and we could support it, but the business changed into writing for the broader strokes.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this is what year did the advertising start to come in?
2000. I want to say 2006 or 7.
2006, 7. So around this time, social media is starting to
Not yet.
Not yet. So
No.
So when social media comes, does that shift the brand immediately, or because I found you mainly through social.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The evolution there's been a lot of it, and it's still happening today. It's going to be different next year.
Of course.
We're dealing with even more changes, but people would come to your website, your blog, they would bookmark you, and in the morning you'd go through all your bookmarks and you'd visit your 10 sites, just like we visit our 10 or a couple apps now.
Yeah.
Then it went to, I think what came first was Pinterest. Started to rise up and send traffic, and Google search became more important, and then Facebook happened.
Got it.
Facebook started to suck people into Facebook land and send them also back to our sites. Facebook started to take on publishers.
Okay.
Then that spread to Instagram and then TikTok. Twitter never really touched us in our space. I don't know about you.
Yep. Same.
Those are the ones, and then they all started to turn it off.
Yeah.
Google turns it down. Facebook turns it down. Instagram doesn't really send you much, and TikTok doesn't send anyone to anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just the way.
But we're there.
Yeah. Well,
but the point. Sorry, my bigger point is we had to go to all those places to meet people where they were.
Of course.
Regardless, and it turns out that I'd bump into people say, "Oh, I love apartment therapy." I was like, "Oh, that's great. Where do you? Oh, I see you on Instagram every day." I said, "Do you come to the site?" No, I've never come to the site. Yeah. So we really, and then there was also the video moment when people started making video, which was a whole other push.
Because that's what I was going to bring up, because that's where, I can't tell you. And that's why I started this episode off saying thank you, because I can't tell you how many times I will meet someone and they'll go, I started following you because I saw your videos on YouTube. And I'm thinking, I only have like music videos on YouTube of myself. So it must have been from apartment therapy, me being on YouTube. And that was the thing. Like, that was like where people start, like, it was one thing to read and see, but once you were able to share that video content, for me, it was also like, I couldn't get enough of it. And I'm sure for you guys, it was just
Well,
like,
you permanently, what we did mainly was video.
yes,
So you were first from the get-go, really talking to the audience.
for sure.
Yeah.
Out the gate, which was very different for me because I was mainly just before that behind the camera doing stuff. And then on my own time, I would shoot some content and maybe do a voiceover. I never put myself in front of the camera to talk. But everyone was like, let's make this happen. And there were so many wonderful things that I did with the team that I was just like, they have this whole thing down. They understand how to put out information so that an audience can easily consume it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I thought was so great about the team that I was working with, but across the board what Apartment Therapy has been. So for all of us, it's been like and I'm talking about all of us out in the world, it's been a hub for inspiration. For you, you're the one guiding the ship, right? You're not rowing anymore. But are you still finding inspiration in a lot of the content that you all push out? Like, are you okay? You know what? I'll start here. For your own personal style, are you looking? Because I'll still dig into some of the stuff that's coming out and go, I need to look at this because I'm also trying to rework this small little corner in my home.
Right.
You know, do you do that on your own site?
Yeah. To be fair, we've gotten to the place where they publish so much.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with all of it.
I bet.
I always look at what's rising on the site.
Yeah.
I do like the house tours personally a lot, and I'm always interested to see what people are gravitating towards. I look at a lot of different things, our sites included, and I save stuff to the site or I save it to Pinterest, which I should stop doing because we're trying to build up our functionality on site.
Got it.
But. And the other thing is, what's funny is like when I started 20 years ago, I was 20 years younger. And I'll never forget, I met and interviewed Terrence Conran, who's English and passed away a few years ago and was instrumental in sort of changing the way people live and thought of their homes in England. And he said to me, he's like, when I was young, I wanted affordable and simple. Sure. And he was the person who created Habitat, which is like IKEA.
Okay.
And then he said, when I got a little older, he sold that and he started Conran's, which was a little more upscale because that's where he was in his life.
Of course.
And then he got to a even higher place and he's like, he wanted, a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm a little aged out of our sites a little bit.
I get it.
Mainly because I want the sites to live. We want the sites to live where people are beginning their lives. We want it to be your first home, your first apartment, and then your first renovation, and now you have kids, and now you gotta change that. Yeah. So we try to keep it in that band. I don't want to go to be Art Digest. I don't want to be, like my home. To be fair, my parents had passed away in the last 10 years, and it allowed me to upgrade. They left some money behind
for sure,
and I was able to rebuild and renovate a house out in Long Island. And I was photographed by House Beautiful, and we also showed it on the site. And I love it. It's cool.
What is your personal style?
That one was, but I want to say I was a little embarrassed to show it in Apartment Therapy because I didn't want any haters because it's fancy. It's super fancy. Like I really, this was a dream home.
For sure.
And what I did with this one is it's in Long Island, so I wanted it to be shingled. I wanted it to be like a barn. I wanted it to be real simple. I had at least simple on the structure. The idea was there was a museum built out there called the Parish Art Museum. Yeah. And the story I heard from people in the neighborhood was it was designed by architects called Herzog de Meuron.
Okay.
Who are the coolest.
Okay.
I mean, they've built this amazing, beautiful buildings all over the world. And I was like, those people are cool. Yeah. But they built this museum for the Southampton Museum, and the Southampton Museum said, we don't have a lot of money. I said, well, then there's not much we can do. Yeah. I said, what can you do on our budget? And they said, we can build one long straight barn with a nice overhanging roof. Simple. and it'll be striking because it's so simple.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to build a striking, simple barn.
Yeah.
And inside, and then during that period, everyone was painting their houses black. So I wanted to make it black. And then I wanted to be, which is popular in Scandinavia, I think, as well.
Of course.
So I wanted the inside to be very light and woody and sort of Scandinavian.
Got it.
And I did not want to put an Eames chair in it. I didn't want to put a Turkish rug in it. I didn't want to put anything American in it.
Okay.
I wanted the practice to be stay focused.
Yeah.
Keep this house design focused and clear.
Yeah.
And don't mess it up.
So you have your theme, you're going to stick to it.
Yeah. So I everywhere I went, I looked like wallpaper. I found this Finnish wallpaper fellow from the last century, mid-century. Yeah. So I would find the designers that were in the overlap.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'd find the things and I'd say, these things all work together. For me, it was a matching pattern exercise. I wanted to just keep the language all in the same language.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. That's the reason why it's great that you shared it on Apartment Therapy, because again, the space is for people to be inspired by, aspirational, to find like, hey, yes, this is my starter home or my small apartment that I'm working on.
Yeah.
I still want to, I might have this small box, but I can touch a little bit of what you're showing me in your space. I can bring a little bit of that here. I can live.
Yeah, I do think that's true.
With a little Scandi space inside of my little small box.
There's also another piece of this, which is the floors in this house are this wood from this company that I found that's from Denmark. Mm-hmm. But I found that company 15 years before the house. I literally, when you see things and you save things like I do.
You bookmarked it, you were like.
You say, one day that's going to be in my dream house.
That's what everyone's doing on your site.
So you can't, there's a little, I don't believe, Arc Digest is a little too precious for me. It's beyond.
For sure.
But yeah, a little bit of like aspiration is really good. It pulls us forward.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to talk to you about what is inspiring you design wise. I did find it very interesting that, and also I was like, I'm glad he said that, that the trend of painting your house black or having a black house, you were like, I'll also add that to my cart as well. Because you always have this fear that what you're creating, especially if you're building a home or if you're doing a renovation, if it's going to be timeless or if it's just there for the moment as a trend. Yeah. Do you guys think of that on the site at all as you're sharing content? What is things that are just trendy for the moment, or what can help someone, guide someone that if they came back 5 years later, you're still saying, hopefully, that that's still in style?
On the site, we publish a house tour every day. Mm-hmm. We slowed down just a touch. We used to do 2 a day.
Yeah.
We've been sort of playing around with how much do people want.
Yeah.
But I don't worry about that.
For sure.
I think our job is to put out really good photographs and the inspiration behind it by the people who live there.
Yeah.
And then as much of the ingredients as we think is reasonable to list and link so you can find stuff. And people will take and do with it what they want. Variety is important. And we always find people respond to different things. But
of course.
Anyone who's sort of has more of a handmade home tends to resonate the strongest. So it doesn't matter what style, as long as it has that handmade feeling and care.
For sure.
You'll also be surprised, like the ones that people really favorite the most are not the funkiest either. They're often, when Anthony Bourdain, who wrote Kitchen Confidential, I'll never forget, he wrote one of his last chapters, he's like, what all chefs, all these 4-star, 5-star chefs, their favorite meal is? Meatloaf.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's like the homes that end up being the evergreen, the ones that win all the prizes, are like meatloaf. They're comfortable.
We know a famous James Beard nominee award-winning chef, Mexican restaurant chef, favorite place to eat tacos. Not his restaurant. Happens just to be Taco Bell.
Is it really?
He loves Taco Bell.
Yeah.
He has to have Taco Bell. So I understand that. I get it.
So that's what we do. We
yeah.
are not precious about it. We try to put out all different styles, all different people, walks of life, different parts of the country, parts of the world.
For sure.
I sort of love those beautiful European apartments with tall windows and stuff, but it's not New York.
Yeah.
Inspiration can come from everywhere, and ultimately, when you do your own thing, you probably want to pull from a bunch of different sources.
For sure. I mean, that is exactly how you find your own look. What I guess what's unique to you versus just replicating an entire space that you've seen, right? Because then you're just living in someone else's home. Max, you've brought us so much today. I'm so thankful to have you here to just have this discussion. I could sit here for the entire day, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I do want to ask. We talked about the apartment therapy books that you have put out in the past, but recently you've been working on just a series of like books of just writing, right?
Yeah, totally different.
Are these novels? What are they?
We've put out, I think, for apartment therapy, we've done 2 cookbooks and 4 design books, and then we stopped because that was a lot of work, and we felt like we'd done what we needed to say there. But about a year or 2 ago, I felt like I really was missing my own creative side.
Yeah.
And I realized I spend enough time in the design world that I didn't want to bring that home with me in this particular case. Course. And I don't know where it came from, but I was reading a lot. I read a lot. And I was really resonating with some of these simple memories of childhood by a couple writers. And I thought, the funny thing is when you read someone really, really good, you go, they make it look so easy. You think, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can do that.
Dave Eggers is one of those guys for me.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah. It's humbling when you do it. But then, I was like, I actually realized I've written a lot over the years. It's just mainly been blogging, or it's been writing to a prompt, or writing, to describe a room or a tip or a hack. But so I'm pretty facile with putting words together. Maybe I can take that skill and redirect it into more my interior. So the first book I wrote was a group of 20 short stories that were memories from childhood. And they start early and they end sort of in the teen years.
Okay.
And that was so much fun to write. And I self-published it and gave it away for Christmas. Right away, I was like, I got to do something harder. I want to get better.
Challenge
and
yourself.
So the one I wrote this past year is more of a memoir of a trip that I took after college. After college, I had a job, and only 2 things I wanted to do. I wanted to work in design. Had this job for like 4 months, and I hated it. After 4 months, I hated it. I couldn't do it anymore. No. So I was like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? Well, there's that one other thing, which is travel around the world on a bike. So I worked for like 9 months with a contractor, saved up my money, lived at home.
Okay.
And I took off on a bike. And that book is the first 3-4 months of that trip, which ends in a tragedy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I wanted to tell one sustained story.
For sure.
And so that was that. And now I'm working on something for this year, which will be different.
All the rivers run into the sea. Can people buy this online?
They can email me.
If you guys want
I literally gave them away last year. These are a little expensive, so I have people who know me Venmo me, and I send them the book.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm happy to send more.
So this is a way to put a little bit more into that creative bucket of yours, to separate a little bit of yourself from what's happening here, to maybe even, because I think of that as like a way to help you be better at steering this shit.
Yeah, I think look, I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
There's a little part of me that's sort of like, I need a new challenge. I don't want to get rusty. For sure. But also a little bit at my age, I'm 57, is taking this opportunity to look back on life from a creative lens.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of therapy in there.
Of course.
So it's, and I should say when I was in high school and college, I wanted to be a writer.
Oh,
But
okay.
I didn't feel like I had enough life to write.
Yeah.
I couldn't make stuff up.
Gotcha.
So this was a little bit, I think I've got something I could write about now.
I love that.
Yeah.
Last question.
Yeah.
What's next?
So next is taking this company to the next level. We have been fixing things for 2 years. COVID was great, and the last 2 years were shitty.
Okay.
For all digital media, it has been like whiplash. And we've been fixing things. I said to people last few months, it's like, getting up in the morning and fixing things is no fun. You do not want to get up in the morning. Yeah. Building is fun.
Yeah.
So we are back to building this year, and it'll take us 2 years. We're doing a complete rebuild of both of our sites and probably all three of our sites. And the idea here is I want to get back to that. When, as I said in the beginning of our conversation, people used to come to the site and used to interact with people on the site.
For sure.
That all got exported over the last 10 years because they're on social.
With social, yep.
So we are now redesigning the sites. We'll be on social.
Of course.
All that stuff we have to. But we're redesigning the sites so that when you come to the site, right now, if you come to the site, it's just an archive of everything that we're writing.
Yeah.
Not very interesting. So we're redesigning the sites to be a place you can find all of our content, of course. You can also find the videos, which frankly are not on the site, but they're on social.
Yeah.
And we're building tools and utilities on the site so that you can use the site to do maybe what you do on Pinterest by saving images. You can taking all the tours we've had over the last 15, 16 years, and you can tour by room, you can tour by style, you can tour by color.
Wow.
On in the room. So we're building out these utilities so that people will come to the sites, use them, and stay with us for the next chapter. Because I think what we're finding is unless sites become better and more useful and build again, we're going to just be slaves to social media and TikTok and which are very stimulating, amazing platforms. Yeah. But they don't do what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to build.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. You can't let the algorithm.
Don't want to work for the algorithm.
Don't want to work for the algorithm at all. I'm looking forward to this next build out that you guys do.
Yeah, stay close. We'll one of the big divides has been that our video has lived on social, and you can't find it on the site. It doesn't come at you on the site, and it's a big miss. Yeah, we need to be a unified point of truth that shows everyone everything, and then find it again when you want to.
I love that.
Yeah.
Everyone, I've been completely just sitting here loving every single moment of this. I hope you loved it. Maxwell, thank you so much for being on the podcast and letting me take up a little bit of your space in my head today.
You took up a lot of my space.
I did. I took up your entire office.
No. It's great to talk. I don't. This is like talking shop, but it's better than digging ditches.
That's 100%. Of course.
Yeah, thank you for being a part of our world.
Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your world.
Yeah. I hope. What's your next chapter going to be?
My next chapter, man, that's a good question.
You're not. We plant doctor. We could have put in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we could. Yeah, I'm still allowing the plant thing to be a part of who I am because I love it so much. Yeah. I'll never let that side go. But I've also I'm working on a pilot for a TV show. So we'll see how that all pans out. But
is it a real reality?
It's reality. It is basically a renovation. You can't escape renovations. It is renovations through the lens of bringing the outside in, right? So not only am I talking about bringing plants in, but I'm talking about how a particular, like you were talking about with the Waldorf space, how does light affect you?
Yeah.
So let's open up some holes in the ceiling, create skylights. Let's make this window a bit bigger so that you have a lot of light coming in. You can only take care of one plant, fine. Let's bring one plant in. But the energy of the sun is a beautiful thing. Letting nature, the outdoors come in is great. This carpet, maybe that's not a great feel for you. Let's bring in this really nice wood, a particular wood. Maybe you are someone who feels connected to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
You went there with your partner and you guys fell in love with the way the floors and whatever. Let's bring that to your sunroom.
Okay.
Right. So that's kind of what the show's about. And hopefully it gets picked up. We shall see. But that's a part of the chapter. But
does it have a name?
It has a working title.
Yeah.
Little Shop of Hilton. But we'll see what happens at that point. But yeah, man, I'm just having fun, adjusting, staying very open to change, right? Because like you said, like a lot of the stuff, how my business grew was via social, and we're all in that, we're all in it together, trying to, stay afloat. But I'm expecting a second child.
Oh, good.
This summer. Thank you.
That's all you need to keep your ass.
There it is. That's all I need. So I'm accepting that challenge is something I'm really into. Accepting the next challenge. So that's the next thing for me. And I'm just happy that I can do the thing that brings me the most happiness. And someone's like, hey, let's pay you a little money so you can, keep the lights on and feed or pay the individuals who actually work with you. So that's the thing too. For me, it's just like, when you're talking about allowing other individuals to take lead in certain places, especially when you're not, when you don't find those particular jobs as interesting or exciting, but you need someone to do those things. Yeah. At this point, I now have a good group of people with me who can help me steer the ship.
That's great.
I feel like while I haven't given up one of the rows. Yeah. We're all moving in the right direction together. So
good. All right.
All right.
Well, thank you. I can't wait to see Little Shop of Hilton.
Thanks, Max. Thank you all. We'll talk to you soon.